Great. Well, welcome everybody. Again, my name is Bob Lofton. I'm a librarian at Haggard Library, part of Plano Public Library System. My assistant today is Anna. Anna, will you please introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Anna, and I'm a library instructor at Haggard Library, and I'm super excited to be here.
So that you know, Anna, as a library instructor, is probably better with this software than I am, and yet I am teaching the class. But Anna, if you have anything to add, please jump in. We can do questions kind of throughout this. If you will post your questions in the chat in Zoom or in the chat on YouTube, if you're in there, we can address those questions or put them off till later through an email, or I'll have some suggestions on all of that later. But we are here to learn image editing with GIMP. All right, so what is GIMP? GIMP is freeware. It is an fairly powerful image editing software. It's kind of like the freeware version of Adobe Photoshop. So it's very deep software, can do a lot of different things. However, in my opinion, it's a little clunky compared to Adobe Photoshop and some other things that you pay for. But the benefit is GIMP is free. Oops. So I'm going to show you how to get GIMP, first of all. This is the home page. So it just stands for GNU Image Manipulation Program.
Bob, we're not seeing the homepage.
Oh, you're not? Did I stop? You are not seeing the GIMP homepage? Is that true?
That is correct. We're seeing a bunch of windows.
Oh, weird.
For applications and such, but okay.
Okay, you should be seeing me now. I'm going to share my screen again. And I'm picking the desktop. You seeing it now?
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that, y'all. I didn't mean to create some kind of vortex. So again, GIMP, GNU Image Manipulation Program. It is free. This is their site. It is just simply GIMP, GIMP.org. Really easy to get to. To download this, there is up toward the top of the page a download link. It will typically detect what kind of computer you're on. So for me, it's telling me, it's giving me the links for GIMP for the Mac OS. But there are links here that for the Linux version and the Windows version too. There's a couple of different links here for downloading them. I usually download it directly from them if I need to. But it is a standard install. Also on their page, there's a lot of other stuff. There's documents about, you've got the GIMP user manual and whatnot. So that is how you get GIMP. I think what we're going to do today, though, instead of just looking at this this page, I'm going to actually open GIMP. And Anna, please let me know if I lose you on the interface. Are you seeing the GIMP interface now?
Yes, we are.
Good. All right. So, y'all, my goal today is to get you a little familiar with the interface. Like I said, it's a really deep program. There is a course on lynda.com, which is available through Plano Public Library for free on your computer. It's 5 hours long. I've done the whole course. It's really good, but this is I'm just going to condense a few things that I got out of it that helped me a lot, because coming from Photoshop, there were some things that I found very confusing. But so let's just go over the interface. I'm going to increase the size a little bit, but you can see up at the very top, you've got a pretty standard looking menu system. You've got a file menu, edit, select, view. Then you've got one for image because you're dealing with images. You have a layer menu that will deal with the different layers of your image. If you haven't done this kind of work before, all of these nicer graphical packages allow you to stack layers one on top of the other. It's kind of like you have one transparency on top of another, and then you can chop things out, revealing the layer that's underneath. And there's a lot of other applications for it. There's a color menu, a menu dealing with some of the tools. We are going to play with filters a little bit. Filters are really fun for doing artistic things. And you'll see, I'm going to scroll down here, but you'll see, I particularly like the artistic filters that allow you to make something look like an oil painting or turn everything into various sizes of cubes and lots of fun things like that. Anyway, so that's the top menu. Couple of other things at the top menu. Under it just says GIMP-2.10. If you need to look for your preferences for anything, this is where you find it, the preferences. I will open that window. I'm not going to play with this a lot, but I just want you to understand where the preferences for this application are. Okay. Now, back to the interface for this. Up here at the top left side, you have a lot of tools. We're not going to go over all of the tools today. We simply don't have enough time. But one of the main ones we're going to use here, and the one you need to learn to recognize, is the Move tool. I've got it, my cursor right there, but it looks like up and down and side to side arrows crossed. And that's what's going to allow you to move elements of your image around in your project. And some of the other ones we're going to use today, we're going to probably use the crop tool. We might use the paint bucket tool, but there's an airbrush tool, all sorts of stuff. If you put your pointer on top of one of these tool icons, it tells you what tool it is. So you don't actually have to remember it. If you don't use the application very much, that's super helpful. Okay, so if you can't remember which one is the Move tool, put your arrow, your cursor over the tools until you find what you're looking for. There's the crop tool, various other things. So now, also over here on the left side, if I pick the Move tool, I want you to look down below this list of tools. If you can see this on your screen, there are a bunch of options that are showing up down here. These options are specific to the tool that you have selected. So if I click the Move tool, it changes, and I've just got a couple of options down here. One says pick a layer or guide, and the other says move the active layer. Okay. We're going to talk about this, not really in depth, but I really want to cover this because this is potentially one of the most confusing and frustrating things about using GIMP when you first start. So we're going to play with that a little bit. Anyway, that's how you find your tools. All right. So the first thing we're going to do, just to kind of play with the Move tool and resizing some things and show you how to put text in and stuff like that, we're going to create a really simple, like super simple little restaurant menu using some elements that I've already got prepared. Now, creating a document from scratch is different than editing something you've already got on the computer. So we're going to be creating an image, a document from scratch using GIMP. So I'm like most applications, up in the File menu, there is a New menu choice. I'm going to click New. Let me move this to the center. All right. Now, if you have a specific size image you're trying to create, there's a couple of ways to pick this. One, there is an image size area here in this window, and it defaults to showing pixels. So when I create this image, it's going to be 1920 pixels wide by 1080 tall. I can change that to inches. So now I see it's 6.4 wide by 3.6 inches tall. But this is how you change the units that your image size is displaying. Now, you could obviously, like if you wanted to create a US letter size document, you could just type in 8.5 by 11. But luckily, there are some templates that you can choose to. So under templates, click that. There's a whole lot of them. In this case, I'm going to go down to US letter and click that. Now I've got that picked. I'm just going to click OK. All right, and my background is black. I don't really want that. Let me see if I can change that. Almost, Bob, almost. There we go. All right, so now I've got essentially the first layer of this image that I'm creating for a menu. And we'll talk about the paint bucket tool momentarily, but the paint bucket is actually the quick and dirty way I use to change the color of that background document. Okay. I'm going to go back up and pick Move Tool. I like to kind of center everything and go back to the Move Tool when I'm not using something else. So we've created a first layer. Something you need to see over here on the right side of the window, down toward the bottom, you see right here where I'm circling, it says background. Anytime I create a new layer in this document, and that's almost anytime I do anything with it, actually, it's going to add a new layer. So we'll be looking at that, but that's where your layers show up. Anna, do we have any questions so far?
No questions at this time.
Okay, please fire those questions off if you have them, and I'll do the best I can to answer them, or ask Anna for help if I can. Okay, so I'm going to create a menu here for Bob's Seafood Restaurant. And the first thing I'm going to do is just add some text to the menu. So over here on the upper left, again, you go to your tools, and there is a letter A. I put my cursor on it and it says text tool. So I'm going to click that. Some options show up down at the bottom. You have a font that you've selected. You've got the size, the color of the text and all that. I'm going to change the color of my text to black. And let's just see how this looks. So I've still got the tool selected. I'm going to click here in my document and type Bob's Seafood. Now, when I start typing, you notice a menu pops up right above where I'm typing. And these are adjustments I can make directly to this one piece of text that I've created. So I can bump up the font size. I'm going to change it to, let's see what it looks like at 100. And I'm going to click the bold option. Click enter. Oh, I forgot something. To make this happen, I have to double click inside that area until I get these little yellow boxes around each one of the letters. That is different than what you would have in a lot of programs. A lot of programs, you might have to highlight that text. Some of them you might not have to do anything. You just select that. But in this case, this is kind of analogous to highlighting. You double click until you get all of them selected. Now I'm going to type in 100. It's really easy to forget this stuff. And I'm going to bold it. It increased the font size a bit. I think I want it about twice that big though. And I'm just hitting the enter key after I make those adjustments. I could, since I've still got it selected, I could change the color of the font as well to red. But I think I'm going to just keep it black. Say I'm going to print this in black and white. Now I could click the color selector here again, change color of selected text, and I could click black. But I think what I'm going to do, because I want to demonstrate this, the undo feature under your edit menu up at the very top is probably your most important tool. I clicked undo text layer and it changed back to where it was before I made that change to the red text. So, okay. Now, I told you we were going to talk about the move tool because it can be very frustrating. I'm going to try to first demonstrate why it's frustrating. I'm going to select the move tool. And you can see there's still a dotted box around my text here. I'm going to try to move this text over to the left and up a little bit. Okay, and of course it's working now. A lot of times, actually, I just realized why it's working. Okay. Okay, this is a very important point, y'all. So the move tool, if you look at the two options down here, in my experience, GIMP by default says pick a layer or guide. It has that tool option picked. And what happens when I come over here and I've got my pointer, you can see there's a little, it looks like a little hand with an index, a pointer finger out. And so I go up here and I put the tool in that area where the text is, and I think I'm going to move it, but what I'm doing is dragging that bottom layer instead. Super, super frustrating if you don't expect that, because obviously you had that text highlighted. It's got the little dots around it. Let me undo that. So what I've found, a couple of things. One, when I've got using this tool, part of the tool up there, it looks like crosshairs, like from a gun. If I move that around in the box until the crosshairs are right on top of some of the text, you will see that the little pointer finger icon disappears. When that disappears, then I can move this around. Now, if your text is really small, that's hard to do. So here's what my suggestion is. I think that instead of having over in the tool options, pick a layer or a guide, I think what you want to do is click move the active layer. Okay. Now, which layer is active? Well, when I added this text, you can see down here, there is a layer called background. That was that first one I added. And then there's another one called Bob's Seafood, which is the text that I just added. So I'm going to click on Bob's Seafood. Okay. And when I clicked on it, suddenly it is surrounded by the little box. I've still got the move tool selected, and now I can easily grab it and move it around. Okay. So again, my suggestion is when you're working in GIMP, to avoid a lot of frustration with having to constantly undo your movement that shifted a layer around that was unintentional, just keep the move the active layer option picked on the move tool. Okie doke. I think I've spent enough time on that. Any questions at this point, Anna? Did you learn anything?
I definitely learned many things. That is a very neat trick. There are no questions.
Yeah, it's really important in GIMP to know that those tool options are down there. And if a tool isn't doing something that you think it should, look at those options and see if any of them will make the adjustment to the tool's behavior that you want. Okay. So pretty boring menu so far. I am going to now drag over a folder. Anna, I'm dragging my folder over. Can you see me moving it around?
Yes, we can.
Okay, that's just a folder. I prepared a few materials here for this class. And here's the contents of that folder. And I have an image that I grabbed off the internet this morning called Swordfish. It's a graphic. It looks like that. And the nice thing about GIMP is you can just pull things into your project. So I'm going to grab Swordfish. I've got a little plus sign there, and I'm going to drop it. Now the swordfish has appeared. Yay. All right. Now, you will see also over here under the layers that a swordfish layer has been created. So it's like you've got a background, and then you've got a transparency sitting on top of that with Bob's Seafood text, and then you've put this swordfish graphic down on top of that other layer. Now, I still have the move tool selected, and I have moved the active layer, and you can see that the swordfish layer is active. So I can drag it up here. All right. Now, interesting thing about this is, even though there is only the swordfish is a line drawing, the white space around it in this square is also considered part of that swordfish image. So if I move that over, it's going to be on top of Bob's Seafood. And I don't want that. But I want the image to be a little bit bigger. So this is one of those things that is very different in GIMP. Resizing a section of this, normally if you, a lot of programs, you select it and you get some little tags at the corners, and you can easily drag it and make them and change the size. To make this thing bigger, what I need to do is come over to my tools, and I happen to remember that this tool right under move on my toolbox says scale tool, scale the layer, selection, or path. So I'm going to click scale. Then I'm going to come over here and click on that item. And now you see I've got the little boxes that I can grab. And so I can grab maybe this corner, and I can make this bigger. Now, as I'm making it bigger, that white space covered up some of Bob's Seafood, and I don't want that. I'm going to pull the swordfish up a little bit. So now we need to deal with this whole issue of Bob's Seafood. Couple of ways to deal with this. One is I could try just dragging over here in the layers. I could try just dragging the Bob's Seafood up so that it's the top layer. Let's see what happens. Okay, that basically did what I wanted it to. The other thing you could do, let's change it back, is you could use this lasso tool and maybe cut out the swordfish, and then get rid of that layer, and then reapply and cut and paste the swordfish that's just sort of very exactly cut out back into the document. I'm not going to spend the time on it right now because we've got a lot to go over, but I think the best solution now is just to drag the Bob Seafood layer back up to the top layer, and voila. And I'm going to reposition the swordfish a little bit more. Okay. All right. Questions, Anna?
No questions at this time, Bob.
Okay. Just to let y'all know, we are going to play with a pre-existing photograph in just a little bit. Okay. Now, pretty boring menu so far because there's nothing on it. You couldn't order anything at this restaurant. So I grabbed an image off of the internet of a local seafood place here in Plano. I grabbed a little bit that I'm going to paste in. Obviously, if you wanted to type it in, you could just get the text tool and start typing at, where are you, text tool? There we go. And I could start typing fish, chips, et cetera, and play with it that way. I'm going to undo that though. Instead, I'm going to pick the move tool again because let's do undo text layer. Got rid of that text layer completely, that new one. And I'm going to go back over here to that folder. And this is just a screen capture of some of that menu locally. So I'm just going to grab it and drop it in here. Now, what you may not be able to see over here, when I grabbed it in, it's asking me if I want to convert that image's color profile. That's some technical image processing stuff for the way the application interprets color information. I'm just going to click convert. And now it dragged it in, but it's really, really small. And that is not useful. So it is selected already over here in layers. I'm going to come over here to scale layer, select it, and make it bigger. And then I'm going to be able to move it however I want. Now, in this particular example, I wasn't real careful to get a big high resolution screen capture. So the letters here are a little bit fuzzy. The point isn't to get this example perfect. It's to show you all how to select things and drag them in and move them around. But one thing that has happened to me before, maybe I've got two screens here and I drag something like that in and it needs to change the color profile. Well, the computer's sitting there doing nothing. I've got a little spinning rainbow wheel wondering what's going on. And I don't notice that the window asking me if I want to convert it is on my other screen. So that's something to be aware of, or it could be under another window on your desktop. So if that happens, be aware that there's probably a button in a pop-up window that you need to click someplace. Okay. Questions at this point, Anna?
No questions.
I'm trying to be really good about stopping for questions. All right. Very good. So this is a pretty simple menu, but I think it'll show you how you could use this to create a menu or a flyer for an event or your business or anything like that. And there are a lot of other options for doing this kind of work. But again, GIMP is free and it's very powerful. And if you get good with it, you can really do a lot of great things with it. So let's look again at this image. I've created 4 layers. I've got the background layer. I've got the swordfish layer. That's the swordfish graphic. I've got the screenshot of the menu items. And then the top layer, right now, I've got it set as Bob's Seafood, just that text. And again, if you want to change the way these layers are stacked, all you've got to do is actually grab them and move them around over here in the layers area. And it's super easy. Okay. Now, what would you do with this? Say you're finished with this graphic. You're ready to save it and print it. And maybe you want to save it as a PDF file, especially since maybe this is a menu and you're going to get it printed. Well, you can't just save this. Like if I go up here to the file menu and I click save, it's going to save it. It says untitled.xcf. I'm going to call it menu.xcf. And it's going to my computer desktop, but XCF is not something that you can really print, not easily. It's not, in order for somebody to read this, they would have to have GIMP on their computer or device because this is the GIMP project file format. So I'm going to come down here to, it says select file type by extension. And there's a little plus sign, and it's not really that easy to see that plus sign, but if I click it, then I've got a lot of different options, but none of them look like what I want. That's because I'm doing the save menu, not the export menu, okay? Little different, some applications, like you go to export and you say, yeah, export it as a PDF file. Not so in GIMP. So I'm going to cancel. Go back up to the file menu. Now I'm going to go down to the export menu. That's what I want to be looking at. Okay. Same thing. You can see up here, it's going to save to my desktop. I'm going to call it menu. And it's set to save it as a PNG file, but I want to do a PDF. So I'm going to click again, select file type, and I'm going to start looking for PDF. And I don't see PDF anywhere. That's because it's over here under extensions and the full name portable document format. I'm going to click that and click export. I'm going to click export again. And I'm going to drag this over where you can see it. It put this document on my desktop, menu.pdf. I'm going to open it in Acrobat and I'm going to drop it down to like 75% so you could actually see the whole thing. And so, I mean, it's pretty easy to create a PDF document like this. The nice thing about doing this in something like GIMP is that unlike using Word or some other word processor, it's a lot easier to arrange these different elements artistically on a page with something, doing some page layout with an application like GIMP. So anyway, that's how to create a little menu. All right, we're going to move on to playing with an existing image. Anna, I'm going to ask again questions at this point. This would be a good time to ask questions, y'all, if you've got any.
None so far in the chat, but I'll keep you updated.
Okay, very good. So you can see in my little project folder, there's a file called Lilies. This is one of my favorite images to teach image editing classes with. So I'm going to go over here to the file menu in GIMP, and I'm just going to click open. And I'm going to pick Lilies. And I'm going to click open again, and there it is. All right. So a couple of things. I have 2 different project files open now. It's showing Lilies here, but up here in the Windows menu, you can see that there are actually 2 windows available. I could switch back to menu, and there's my menu, or I can go back to Lilies. I'm not interested in the menu that one anymore. So I am going to close it. And amazingly, this is something I find a little difficult. Let me see.
So there are tabs right above the rulers in the workspace where you can see the images.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you, Anna. That's why you're the brains of this operation. Okay, there's a little, Anna has pointed out up here, it shows the windows that are available, and there's a little X next to the one that I've got open. I'm going to click that X, and I'm going to discard changes to it. And now we just have one thing open. Thank you so much, Anna. I appreciate it. All right. This is the lovely Lilies image that I really enjoy playing with. So we're going to use this to just demonstrate some fun artistic things you can do with this, and a few other things as well. One thing you want to know is that this image could actually be gigantic, but in this case, you can see down here at the very bottom where it says 100%. I'm going to click that. That's the zoom that's being applied to the image. So right now, you're looking at the image as it actually would exist physically. If I wanted to zoom in and see some finer detail in it, I might go up to 200%, and I can zoom in. Or if I want to see if it were gigantic and it's going completely off out of my window, I could do it at 25%. So what you need to understand about this 25% versus 100 or whatever is that all you're doing is changing the size of the image as it is displayed on screen for you. It doesn't change the size that this thing would print out at. Not at all. If this thing were, say, 4 feet by 3 feet, you could still display it as this size on your computer monitor, but it's still going to print out at that original size. Now, when you have an image open, there is an image menu up here. And you can see there's a link that says print size, and it tells you, how many pixels this thing is, or excuse me, millimeters. I could change that to inches. All right. So you can when I'm going to suggest that when you finish this, if you're really interested, you delve into the lynda.com course and find out a little bit more about how to play with the size of your image and stuff like that. But anyway, that's the zoom feature. So let's have some fun with this. We have a lot of tools up here. The first thing I'd like to do is look at the filters. So let's say we want to send, we're gonna use this for an anniversary card, and you found this image on the internet, but you want it to be, I mean, it's a beautiful image, but you want to make some changes to it, do something artistic with it. Filters is really a good place to start. And all of these filters do different odd things. So you have under the filters menu, you have a blur menu, and you could add a blur effect. So now it's blurrier. I'm going to undo. I could go to pixelize. And now it's just pixels, and that is pretty horrible. I definitely want to undo pixelize. You've got enhance. So if there were some, you've got red eye removal. There's a lot of interesting things you can do in here. You could sharpen the edges where the color changes. Like if it were a little blurry, you could try to sharpen it. Light and shadow. Let's try and see what Supernova does. I've never done it. I actually have no idea. Oh, okay. So you can see it's creating kind of a light blast coming from the middle of the and you can change it, play with it. So that's kind of cool, actually. I'm going to cancel that though. Go back to the original. Go back to filters. We'll go to lens flare, like as if you were taking a picture and there's a flare coming from the camera lens, and you've got a lot of options here. And I like to just play with them, like the X position, the side by side position of where the flare is. You can shift it around. You can move it up and down on the y-axis. Can play with that. There's a lot of these that, frankly, I don't really know what they do. Some of my favorite ones are under the artistic area, though. So maybe you found this and you think, man, this would really look great as an oil painting, or maybe watercolor or something like that. So, or maybe you're really avant-garde and want to use some cubism. So I'm going to go to artistic cubism, and it changes it to cubes. But you can still make adjustments here. Like the size of these cubes really makes it hard to tell that these are lilies in the first place. So you can reduce the size. It's still kind of hard to tell. Tile saturation. I mean, you really just have to experiment with this stuff. Let's go back to filters, artistic, and go to, let's see what Oilify does. Okay, this one's kind of cool. It changed it so that it looks more like an oil painting. And again, you've got options here. You can, you can change the fine tuning of this filter, but I kind of like this. I'm going to click OK. Okay. So now I've made this change, and I can still undo it by going up to the edit menu and clicking undo, but I've turned it into an oil painting. You can apply additional filters from here. It's not just one filter. So I can go to artistic, and maybe what happens now if I do, this is clever, Gimpressionist, like an impressionist. I'm going to click OK. And it made it even like a little bit more fuzzy, like an impressionist painting. I'm not crazy about the combination of those two, so I'm going to undo that. But I do like this. Okay, so we've got an image here. Now I wanted to say happy anniversary. Well, we know from the previous project that over here I've got the text tool. And I want it, you see right here where I'm circling, when I pick text tool, it's got the foreground color. I'm going to change it to white because I want the text to show up. And now I'm going to click in the document and type happy anniversary. And again, we've got a window here right above that type. Oops, I left out the R. Did I? Anniversary. There we go. I could again use this to change the height. I could go up to 200. I could make it bold. There's a lot. Oh, I forgot to select it. Again, double click, get everything selected in those little boxes. Now go to 200. Oh, way too big. I'm going to go back down to 100. That just about fits going across. I'm not saying this is the best art ever, y'all, but I'm just proving a point here. I'm going to click the move tool. Remember, I still have move the active layer, and happy anniversary is my active layer. So I can now center this. If I go back to if I want to make changes to that, I go back to the text tool. I double click in there, and I can use this menu up here to make additional changes. So some of the other things you can do, are you've got italics, underline, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. All right. And I'm not going to change the font or anything. Y'all can kind of play with that. That's fairly basic. But so anyway, I've got that selected. Now maybe I don't want to do this. Maybe I don't want to save this as a PDF file. I want to use it as like a JPEG image. Still, I go to the file menu. I go to export as, select the file type, and I'm going to look over here under extensions. Where are you, JPEG? I just saw you. Yeah, JPEG. Export. And I'm going to keep the quality at 100%. I'm going to click export. Okay. And I've exported that file now to my desktop, and I can do whatever I wanted with it. Now, questions, Anna?
Not at this point, Bob.
Okay. I hope this is giving you all that are watching just kind of a quick tour of GIMP. Now I'm going to do one of my favorite things to do with GIMP, which is play with layers. This is so much fun. So actually, I think what I'm going to do is just close this project. I'm going to discard the changes, and I'm going to open Lily's up again. Let's see. Now, this is kind of interesting. I've got two things called lilies on my desktop. One is the the document that I just created that says happy anniversary, lilies.jpg. The other one is the original, which says lilies.jpeg. So I'm going to open up the one, that original one. Okay. Now, what I would like to do is I like the image, but maybe I want something more interesting in the background than black. This is where creating multiple layers and then cutting out pieces of the top layer will allow you to do some interesting things. So let's try this. I had to look this up this morning, actually, but I'm going to leave this layer alone for the moment. I'm going to go back to my window, and I grabbed this outer space shot it's just called minor planets. It's just something I grabbed off the internet. Okay, I'm going to get it, and I am going to drag it down into my layers area and drop it. Now, I got another one of these little windows asking me if I want to import the image from a color profile. I'm going to say convert. Okay. Excellent. Now I have lilies sitting on top of this other image, and I can just grab this image and drag it to the top layer. And now you see what is below the lilies layer. Okay. Oop. Come on, lilies, get on top. There you go. All right. Now, you could just pick the erase tool and get rid of all of this black, but a really nice tool you can use is up here. It's this wand that says fuzzy select tool. Select a contiguous region on the basis of color. So I want you to watch what happens. I'm picking this. Lilies is my active layer, and I click in here, and I don't know if y'all can see it at home, but it has made an outline along the edges and pretty accurately tracing the edges of these lilies. So all of this black area is selected. Okay, now let's see what happens. Now, on a lot of applications, I could just click delete, and this black area is going to go away, and you're going to see the minor planets below it. But if I do that in GIMP, that doesn't work. I have to go to the edit tool and click clear. And remember, I have that black area selected. So that's what I'm working on. I'm going to click clear and see what happens. Ah, it didn't work. Okay, that is because the image that I drug in actually has a white background. I'm going to undo that. Okay. And I'm going to undo my fuzzy select. Okay, so here's the problem. There's a white background sort of embedded in that lilies image, and I need that to not be the case. So what I'm going to do, I have the lilies layer selected. I go up to the layer menu, and I go to the option that says transparency, and I click add alpha channel. Okay, now don't ask me what an alpha channel is because I can't remember what it is. I just remember how to do this. Now I should be able to do that fuzzy select and click the edit menu and clear, and boom, now there are stars beneath there and in the background. Isn't that beautiful, Anna? All right.
It is absolutely gorgeous, Bob.
Thank you. I needed that affirmation. Okay. So really, it's just like working with physical paper. You know, maybe you've got a printout of these lilies and you've got a printout of the star field, and you cut out the part that you want on top, and it's just, if you think about these layers as transparencies or sheets of paper laying on top of each other, it will help you figure out strategies. Now, I want to do one other thing here, because I did this earlier and I thought it was really neat. I'm going back to where we were, and I'm going to undo the add alpha channel. Okay. So I'm back to where we were. We've got lilies sitting on top of the planets. This was kind of a neat effect. And I want you guys to always remember that the right click works in GIMP like it does a lot of other applications. So I'm going to right click on the lilies layer over here, and a bunch of stuff comes up. I'm going to go up to edit layer attributes. Now, a lot of this stuff is fairly complicated, but one thing that's not complicated is opacity, how easy it is to see through this image. At 100% opacity, you can't see through it at all. But if I change it to 50% opacity and click OK, you're going to be able to see halfway through it, which kind of created another neat effect, right? Because you can see the stars like below the water. My point is that you can do a lot of really beautiful artistic things with GIMP. And the secret really is experimentation. Do we have any questions, Anna?
I think people are very clear on what to do because you've been explaining things so well, Bob.
Thank you. I hope everybody is getting something out of this. We've got about 7 minutes left, and so we do have time for questions, but that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about today with GIMP. Hopefully you understand how to use the move tool, that it probably should be set to move the active layer so that you're not bumping layers around unintentionally. We've played with layers. We've created an alpha channel on a layer so that it would create that transparent background for you. You could cut things out. We've used some filters. There's a color menu that we haven't even played with, but this is where you could, like, if we wanted this to be black and white, I could go to saturation, and I could say, I think you drop the saturation all the way down. Sorry. I'm going to cancel that. Colors, color balance. I did this. Oh, desaturate. Sorry. Desaturate. And I'm just going to go to pick desaturate. And it becomes, well, that layer became black and white. Also, that's also kind of a neat effect. So playing with these filters and color adjustments and layers is really amazing. And you start seeing how these incredible digital artists do what they do. Anna, do you have any questions?
I feel like I learned a lot.
Thank you. I hope you did. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Oh, I'm going to go. Let's go over what we've talked about, right? So the move tool, we did that. We used the tool under that was scaling the layer. That's when we changed the size of that swordfish graphic, that line drawing. We did not use crop, but crop is very useful. There's a color picker tool, like in many, like if I wanted to figure out what color this area of the flower is, I could pick the color picker. You can see here it's all white, but it's like using an eyedropper. If I click on it, it turns to that particular shade of pink or pinkish purple or whatever. There's a smudge tool. I could click smudge and I could smudge this all up. I mean, the possibilities are literally endless. So let's undo that. Anyway, I think y'all get the idea. I'm going to stop sharing the screen, and you should be seeing me now. Is that true, Anna?
Yes, we see you big and clear.
All right. Well, if we don't have any questions, I'm going to end the class. But I do, you know what? Let me share one more time, y'all, because I want to show you. I'm going to open up my web browser. This is really important because I've been talking about lynda.com, which is this fantastic instructional system that you have access to. So if you start by going to Plano Library.org. That is our domain name, and it'll send you to our page on the city website. All right, this is our page. Scroll down the page a little bit and click the icon that says Learn. And then you're going to pick Research and Learn. And let's bring that page up. Come on, website. Let's roll. A little slow today, isn't it, Anna? Okay, it's appearing now. All right. So these are all the learning tools and databases and stuff that we make available to our patrons. And one of them is called lynda.com. If you scroll down here, it's under business on this page because it has tons of business software, but lynda.com, Lynda, click access now. I am going to enter my info. Going to log in. Be blurring out that number on the video. All right, this is lynda.com. So you're going to see there's a lot of stuff in here. You've got learning Audacity. Audacity is audio editing software. Getting ready for the SAT test, producing podcasts. Up here in the search field, I'm just going to type GIMP. And it brings up some options. The one I did was called GIMP Essential Training. I'm going to click it. If you've never used lynda.com before, this is a full course on this application. And when you go, for instance, to tour the GIMP interface, he's going to give you a more detailed tour than I gave you, but you've got the video here. Down below, you have the text of everything he's saying. You can view it offline, and it has exercise files you can work with too. And over here on the left, you're going to see it broken down into sections. So if there's a particular thing you're trying to remember how to use, like I just can't remember how to use fuzzy select, you can go directly to fuzzy select. And it is a great course. I highly recommend it, but lynda.com is great for learning almost any software or general topics like digital photography. Okay, Anna, now I'm going to really stop sharing.
Bob, we do have a question.
Okay.
Will you be showing us how to refurbish old family photographs?
I won't be showing you how to do that today, mainly because we're out of time. That is a really good topic. What I'm going to suggest is do the lynda.com course because he covers a lot of things that are very useful for that. Also, if you look at our YouTube channel, and Anna, if you could pop our channel over into the chat, that would be really good. Anna can put a link to our YouTube channel in the chat. We have courses on that kind of stuff, really using Photoshop, but it does a lot of the same things that GIMP does. The tools are just in different places, but what I would say is the strategies you use are the same. So like I was joking with Anna earlier, if I were doing my face, I would have to whiten my teeth. So in that video on our channel, it will talk about doing that, removing red eye, all that kind of thing. That's a pretty deep topic. And tell the truth, I'm not that good at it. Our video would be a better resource for you, and also just learning spending the time on that GIMP course too in lynda.com. Thanks for the link there, Anna.
Absolutely.
Any other questions?
I'm checking chats. It doesn't look like it.
Okay. Well, if that's all the questions, we're going to sign off. Anna, thanks so much for all the help today.
It's been my
And
pleasure, Bob. Thank you for teaching.
yep. This is our ending screen. We thank you for attending the virtual program. Again, our website is planolibrary.org. We also have a blog called planolibrarylearns.org that has lots of great stuff on it for all ages. So please check it out. Other than that, I'm going to end the class. Everybody just have a great day and enjoy using